Well then guys, yesterday we had a brand new trailer, the only trailer so far for X-Men Dark Phoenix, and with it, obviously a lot of people have been doing their own breakdowns, and I was going to do a breakdown. I did a review and reaction. However, the director of the film himself, Simon Kinberg, has done his own breakdown, so what I wanted to do was actually just reveal what he has said, because obviously he's the man behind the film, and if he's giving his own breakdown of the trailer, that's probably the one you want to listen to. So, the opening scene with young Jean Grey, he stated that there are not a lot of flashbacks in the movie, but that foundational relationship between young Jean and a younger Charles is one of the core themes of the film. So that's the opening shot. We can see Jean obviously going to the X mansion and speaking to Charles Xavier. And in that scene, Kinberg stated that Charles has been hiding secrets about Jean's past from her that get revealed over the span of the movie and only make her more unstable. It's the most inopportune time for this character to become unstable emotionally, because she's becoming unstable in a much different way after this cosmic thing that happened to her in space. So that's obviously the discussion. You can see it looks like Jean Grey killed her family by the looks of it. By accident, I would imagine, not controlling her powers and things like that. Apparently the X-Men are viewed as heroes in 1992, which is an interesting revelation because, yeah, it is set in 1992, and that does mean Xavier and Magneto are pushing on about 60 years old. They're looking damn good for 60 years old. But anyway, Kinberg stated that the X-Men have become the X-Men that many of us know from the comics. They are heroes. They're still viewed as different by society, but they've been more embraced than ever before. And when the movie starts in 1992, they are a known superhero team. So that's interesting. We also got a glimpse of the kind of somewhat comic accurate costumes. They're not really, but they're brighter in colour. And Simon Kinberg stated that Avi and Kevin Feige were the chief two people that called me about an X-Men movie 15 years ago. We talked about the costumes and what Bryan Singer had done. I understood and liked, but they were very different to what I had grown up seeing in the comics. So I was excited, finally, as the director, to have more of a say and clothe them in their classic costumes. Well, look, Simon Kinberg, mate, you didn't clothe them in their costumes. They are just in... it's just a bright yellow X across their chest. It's not comic accurate costumes yet. Anyway, obviously a lot of people have said Raven Mystique needs to be off the team. She's not a hero, and Kinberg did actually touch on this as well. He stated that Raven is a part of the X-Men, but she's critical of some of Charles's methodologies in terms of him feeling as though they can just dress up in those costumes and be considered the same as the rest of humanity. So there is a schism forming between her and Charles. It's incredibly unlikely that Mystique will become a major bad guy, plainly because it's being played by Jennifer Lawrence and she's such a big name. It's unlikely she'll become a villain at all. So don't expect her to become a massive out and out bad guy, but at least it's touched upon, I guess. There is, of course, a relationship forming between Jean and Scott, Cyclops, which you can kind of tell in the trailer, but Kinberg did state the following: as Jean starts to become more unstable, there are people in the X-Men who don't think she can be helped and saved. Many of whom think the world and others need helping and saving from her, and so Scott is probably the most prominent person who's holding on to the hope that Jean can be saved. Also, in my trailer reaction, I got confused between Genosha and Asteroid M. Quite an easy confusion, and I was quite tired. But Genosha was kind of explained a little bit by Kinberg when he stated that what you're seeing is the beginnings of Genosha. That's where Eric is when we meet him. It's like Magneto's Israel, a land built for mutants, a homeland where they can be safe and self-sufficient. To be fair, I still think they should just go full-blown comic book. I don't want to see Magneto planting plants and farming around. I just think it's nonsense, to be perfectly honest. And, you know, there's cargo containers that they're living in. Magneto can control metal. Build him a bloody mansion, for God's sake. The kind of villain of the movie, played by Jessica Chastain, we don't know yet whether she is being played by a Skrull or not, but Kinberg did say, I won't say much more in detail on the specifics of that. While everyone else is trying to control this power inside of Jean, Jessica Chastain's character is much more interested in essentially encouraging her to go further with it and try to be the peaceful side of herself. She is the devil on Jean's shoulder, so to speak. We also saw a little bit of the Phoenix Force in the trailer, and Kinberg states that that's actually not maximum Phoenix. That's a 2 or 3 on the Dark Phoenix spectrum. It's a manifestation of her transformation from the Jean we know into Phoenix. And I guess this is probably the last question on most people's lips, but why was X-Men dropped from the title and it just became Dark Phoenix? Well, Kinberg stated, I wanted it to feel more naturalistic, I wanted it to feel edgier, more handmade, more real. I was very inspired by what James Mangold did with Logan, and I felt like if I could bring a measure of that aesthetic in the film, that all of the intergalactic and larger scale things that happen in the movie would feel more shocking, more realistic, more emotional. That is the biggest pile of crap I've heard ever for why they dropped X-Men from the title. That is nonsense. But look, there you go. That is the trailer breakdown courtesy of Simon Kinberg, the director and partial writer, I believe, on this film as well. I'm not massively excited for the film. The trailer didn't really do an awful lot for me. A lot of it seems like a massive rehash of X-Men, what was it, The Last Stand, I believe it was, or X3, something along those lines. A lot of it, an absolute awful lot of it, is a rehash of all of that. I would have been more interested in this film if they were adding the Skrulls, but apparently, I mean, Jessica Chastain potentially might not be playing a Skrull, which is a huge shame. She might not even be playing Lilandra. And there was another interview where Kinberg kind of said that she's an amalgamation of 2 comic book characters, which, again, I just repeat, just go full-blown comic book. All of this nonsense that they just kind of, you know, pussyfoot around it as opposed to just going full-blown comic book, that's the real detriment to this series. It's the X-Men, for goodness sake. They wear bright-coloured costumes. Yeah, sure, they might not work on screen, but go full-blown comic book, full-blown cosmic, have them interacting with the Shi'ar Empire, and have Asteroid M. Go full-blown mental. I mean, you're trying to get us to believe that James McAvoy and Fassbender's characters are pushing 60 in this film. That is a bigger suspension of disbelief, more than me seeing a friggin' asteroid floating through the sky. You know, to believe that these guys are pushing 60, I've got to suspend an awful lot of disbelief that it's, you know, it's hanging on tenterhooks there. So I am not excited for this film. The trailer didn't hype me. I did get a feel for what the early test screenings had as well, because in the early test screenings they just came across as bored. Apparently that was the leaks that were coming out from people that had seen the film at early stages, which obviously pushed them to go for reshoots, but this still seems quite boring. The trailer has no... They're not upping the ante. There's nothing... There doesn't appear to be any stakes there. And I feel that's a real shame. It's interesting that Kinberg would touch on Logan. Logan's an incredible film. I know a lot of people, you know, blow smoke up its arse and they really say they like it and everything like this, but it truly is a very, very good film. But if you were taking some inspiration from Logan, you would have went a completely different direction with Dark Phoenix. You wouldn't have just dropped X-Men from the title. That is the biggest pile of crap I've heard ever. I am quite interested to see whether Fox really does try to push this and go out with a bang, because Fox, being bought by Disney, this is their last foray into the X-Men universe before Disney take over and they potentially merge it with the MCU. So whether they really push it or not, it's not looking likely based off of all of the trailers. But I will be watching it opening night. I will want to go and see this and see if it is any good. But I want to hear your thoughts. What do you think about this? What do you think about the trailer breakdown courtesy of Simon Kinberg, the director? Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. If you're new here, why don't you hit that subscribe button? And if you enjoyed this video, give it a like and a share, because that really helps me out. Guys, if you don't already, please do follow me over on Twitter at Mr. H Reviews. As always, I've been Mr. H, and I will catch you in the next video.